If you've ever found yourself being excessively jealous, constantly seeking validation, or paralyzed by the fear of abandonment, your wounded inner child is controlling your adult relationships. And today, using Carl Jung's profound insights, I'm going to reveal the 5 unmistakable signs this is happening to you, and how recognizing each one can completely transform the way you connect with others. Hello, welcome to Channel Name. I'm your name, and this channel is dedicated to exploring the deepest aspects of the human psyche. If you're here, you've probably already noticed something invisible sabotaging your relationships, creating patterns that repeat without you understanding why. Today, we're diving deep into Carl Jung's psychology to decode how our wounded inner child operates behind the scenes of our love life. By the end of this video, you'll have a complete map to identify these patterns and begin your journey of inner healing. And if you want to dive even deeper into this personal transformation, I've created exclusive material that guides you step by step through Jung's concepts of healing and individuation. All the techniques, practical exercises, and insights about shadow work, archetypal healing, and inner child integration that Jung developed are compiled there. The link will be pinned in the first comment. If this content resonates with you, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. Every week, I bring new insights about depth psychology, conscious relationships, and Jungian healing approaches. Before we begin, I want you to reflect with me. Think about your last relationship that didn't work out. Now tell me in the comments, what pattern repeated the most? Was it the fear of being abandoned, the constant need for approval, or maybe that feeling that you were never enough? Write just one word that defines that pattern. This will help me better understand what you're experiencing and create even more targeted content for your healing journey. The abandonment wound, when love feels like survival. Let's start with the most devastating sign, when your relationships feel like a matter of survival rather than love. This is the abandonment wound speaking, and Carl Jung understood this phenomenon deeply through what he called the personal unconscious, those painful experiences from our early years that shape our adult behaviors. Jung believed that our psyche desperately tries to heal itself by recreating familiar scenarios. So if you experienced abandonment as a child, whether through physical absence, emotional unavailability, or conditional love, your unconscious mind will seek partners who trigger that same wound, hoping this time you'll get it right. Here's how this shows up. You meet someone amazing, everything feels perfect, but then a tiny sign of distance sends you into panic mode. Maybe they take longer to text back, or they need space to process their emotions. Suddenly, you're not an adult anymore. You're that scared child who felt invisible, unworthy of consistent love. The abandonment wound makes you hyper-vigilant. You scan every interaction for signs of rejection. You analyze their tone, their body language, the way they said goodbye. You become a detective of abandonment, always gathering evidence that confirms your deepest fear, that you're too much, not enough, or fundamentally unlovable. Jung called this projection. We project our inner wounded child onto our partners, making them responsible for healing wounds they didn't create. Your partner becomes the parent who needs to prove they won't leave, and every relationship becomes a test of their commitment rather than a space of mutual growth. But here's what's truly heartbreaking. The abandonment wound creates exactly what it fears. When you're constantly afraid of being left, you either become clingy and suffocating, or you sabotage the relationship first to avoid the pain of being abandoned. You leave before you can be left. I've seen this pattern destroy beautiful relationships. People who were genuinely compatible, who loved each other deeply, but the wounded inner child couldn't trust that love was real. The wound whispers, "They'll leave eventually. They all do. You're just delaying the inevitable." Jung's approach to healing this wound involves what he called active imagination, dialoguing with your inner child to understand what they truly need, not from your partner, but from you. The adult you who can provide the consistency, the reassurance, the unconditional love that child never received. The healing begins when you recognize that your partner's need for space isn't abandonment, it's healthy individuation. When you can sit with the discomfort of not knowing their every thought without spiraling into survival mode. When you can love without gripping, trust without controlling. This doesn't mean ignoring red flags or accepting poor treatment. It means learning to distinguish between your wound being triggered and actual relationship problems. The abandonment wound heals when you become the reliable, loving presence your inner child desperately needed. The second sign is perhaps the most subtle but equally destructive: becoming addicted to external validation. Jung called this living in the persona, becoming so focused on how others perceive us that we lose touch with our authentic self. This pattern often starts in childhood when love felt conditional. Maybe you only received attention when you were good, when you achieved something, or when you made others happy. Your wounded inner child learned that your worth wasn't inherent. It had to be earned, proven, maintained. In adult relationships, this shows up as an exhausting performance. You constantly monitor your partner's mood, adjusting your behavior to keep them happy. You say yes when you mean no, laugh at jokes that aren't funny, and suppress your own needs to avoid conflict. You've become addicted to their approval because deep down, you don't believe you're lovable as you are. Jung understood that this creates what he called a false self, a version of you designed to be loved rather than your authentic expression. The tragedy is that even when your partner loves this false version, you feel empty because you know they don't really know you. The validation addiction makes you hypersensitive to criticism. A gentle suggestion for improvement feels like character assassination. A distracted moment from your partner becomes evidence that you're boring, that you're losing their interest. You're constantly seeking reassurance. Do you still love me? Are we okay? Did I do something wrong? This creates an impossible dynamic. Your partner becomes responsible for managing your self-worth, which is exhausting for them and disempowering for you. They can't love you enough to fill the void that your wounded inner child carries, because that void was created by the absence of self-love. Jung believed that true love could only exist between two individuated people who know and accept themselves fully. When you're addicted to validation, you're not showing up as yourself. You're showing up as who you think they want you to be. I've worked with clients who were so skilled at reading others' needs that they'd forgotten their own preferences. They couldn't answer simple questions like, "What kind of movie do you want to watch?" because they'd spent years automatically deferring to others' choices. The validation wound often comes with a cruel inner critic that Jung called the negative animus or negative anima, the internalized voice of early criticism that now judges everything you do. This voice says, "You're too sensitive, too needy, too much. No wonder they seem distant." Healing this wound requires what Jung called individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are rather than who you think you should be. It means learning to validate yourself first, to know your own worth independent of anyone else's opinion. This healing journey involves rediscovering your authentic preferences, your boundaries, your dreams that may have been buried under years of people-pleasing. It means risking this approval to express your truth, because a love that requires you to hide who you are isn't really love at all. The beautiful irony is that as you become more authentic, you become more attractive. Not to everyone, but to the right people. Those who can't love the real you were never your people anyway. Jung taught that authentic love begins with self-acceptance. The control wound, when love becomes a battlefield. The third sign is the most misunderstood, the desperate need to control your partner and the relationship. This isn't about being controlling by nature. It's about a wounded inner child who learned that love equals danger, that vulnerability leads to pain. Jung recognized that our psyche develops defense mechanisms to protect us from re-experiencing early trauma. When a child experiences betrayal, neglect, or emotional instability from their caregivers, they often conclude, if I can control everything, I can prevent being hurt again. In adult relationships, this manifests as needing to know where your partner is at all times, checking their phone or having anxiety when they make plans without you. It's not that you don't trust them specifically, you don't trust life itself to be safe and predictable. The control wound creates hypervigilance disguised as love. You tell yourself you're being caring when you call multiple times a day, or that you're being supportive when you give unsolicited advice about their choices. But underneath, your wounded inner child is trying to manage all variables to prevent abandonment or betrayal. Jung understood that this behavior stems from what he called the shadow, the parts of ourselves we've rejected or denied. The controlling behavior is often a projection of our own fear of being out of control, of being powerless like we felt as children. This wound makes you interpret your partner's independence as rejection. When they want to spend time with friends, your inner child hears, "I'm not enough." When they don't share every detail of their day, the wound interprets this as secrecy and deception. You're not responding to what's happening now, you're responding to what happened then. The cruel irony is that the more you try to control, the more you push love away. Partners feel suffocated, mistrusted, and eventually resentful. The very behavior designed to keep them close drives them away, confirming your inner child's belief that love always leaves. I've seen this pattern destroy relationships where both people genuinely loved each other. The controlling partner wasn't malicious, they were terrified. But impact matters more than intention, and love cannot flourish under surveillance. Jung taught that healing requires facing our shadow, acknowledging that our controlling behavior isn't love, it's fear. It's recognizing that we cannot control another person without destroying the very thing we're trying to preserve, their free choice to love us. The control wound often masks a deeper wound, feeling powerless. As children, we had no control over whether our needs were met, whether we were safe, whether we were loved consistently. The adult version tries to create that control artificially, but real security comes from within. Healing this wound involves what Jung called surrendering to the unconscious, learning to tolerate uncertainty, to trust the process of love rather than trying to manage it. It means recognizing that true love requires freedom, and that a person who stays because they have no choice hasn't really chosen you at all. This healing journey requires developing what Jung called faith in the transcendent function, trusting that love can exist without control, that relationships can be safe without surveillance, that you can be vulnerable without being destroyed. The transformation happens when you realize that the only person you can control is yourself, your responses, your choices, your healing. When you stop trying to manage your partner's feelings and start managing your own wounded inner child's fears, true intimacy becomes possible when both people are free to leave but choose to stay. When trust is given not because you've eliminated all risk, but because you've learned to handle uncertainty with grace. If you've recognized yourself in any of these patterns, I want you to take a deep breath right now. You're not broken, you're not too much, and you're not destined to repeat these cycles forever. What you've just witnessed is your inner child's desperate attempt to get the love they never received. And that awareness is the first step toward healing. Carl Jung believed that our wounds are also our greatest teachers. Every pattern we've explored today, the abandonment wound, the validation addiction, the need for control, they all point to the same truth. There's a part of you that needs love, acceptance, and security. The problem isn't the need itself, it's where you've been looking to get it filled. Jung's revolutionary insight was that healing doesn't come from finding the perfect partner who will never trigger these wounds. Healing comes from becoming the loving parent your inner child never had. It comes from learning to give yourself the consistency, validation, and security you've been seeking from others. This is what Jung called individuation, the process of becoming whole by integrating all parts of yourself, including the wounded child who's been running your relationships from the shadows. When you heal your inner child, you don't stop feeling emotions. You start feeling them from a place of strength rather than desperation. The beautiful truth is that healed people don't seek relationships to complete them. They seek relationships to share their completeness. They don't love from neediness. They love from abundance. They don't stay in relationships from fear of being alone. They stay because they genuinely choose their partner every day.
But here's what most people miss. This healing work isn't just about reading articles or watching videos. Jung developed specific techniques, practices, and insights that can guide you through this transformation systematically. That's exactly why I created the comprehensive guide I mentioned earlier. This material contains Jung's most powerful concepts about inner child healing, how to dialogue with your wounded parts, how to integrate your shadow, how to develop what he called the transcendent function that helps you rise above reactive patterns. It includes practical exercises for each wound we discussed today, step-by-step processes for recognizing triggers before they sabotage your relationships, and Jung's methodology for creating lasting change at the unconscious level. More importantly, it shows you how to become what Jung called the good parent to yourself, how to provide the emotional security, unconditional love, and consistent support that your inner child has been desperately seeking from romantic partners. When you master this, you transform not just your relationships, but your entire experience of being human.
The link is pinned in the first comment below. This isn't just theory. It's a complete roadmap for the inner work that changes everything. Because you deserve to love and be loved without fear, without performance, without the exhausting patterns that have been keeping you stuck. And if this video resonated with you, if you felt seen and understood, subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. Every week, I dive deep into the psychology of human relationships, the hidden patterns that shape our lives, and the practical wisdom that can set us free. Remember, your wounded inner child isn't your enemy. They're the part of you that holds your deepest capacity for love. When you learn to love that child within you, when you learn to meet their needs from a place of adult wisdom and strength, you don't just heal your relationships, you reclaim your power to love fearlessly. Your healing journey starts now. That inner child who's been waiting for someone to finally understand their pain, today they met their healer, you. Go begin that conversation. Your future relationships are waiting for the healed version of you to show up.